Hi people. I found that I really like doing the videos better in the car because an aspect of my mind is actually having to pay attention to something, and it allows me to just like speak freely. Whereas if I'm focused on talking into this phone, I notice that my thoughts aren't as concise. It's like I'm focusing more on how something might be landing, like projecting that, than what it is that I'm actually saying. So yeah, that's that. Yesterday I was talking about the boundaries and belonging workshop, and I keep going back and forth. I'm not really sure. I'm really not sure like what any of this is going to look like at this point, but using the imagination as a tool of what it is that I want to create, and keep realigning to the intention. It's like you can't not do something if that's the case. It's like that saying that's, people don't really fail at anything, they just quit. It's basically saying like you can do it over and over and over and over again. As long as you just keep getting back up and keep going for it, you're going to succeed. I mean, look at all the crap that, look at all the stuff that we've done. Like, can you imagine 200 or 300 years ago, somebody looking over at them and be like, that moon up there? I'm gonna walk across that. They'd be like, are you out of your fucking mind? And yet, here it is. We're talking about potentially living on Mars, which I think is a bad idea, but it's neither here nor there. So it's like I need to just keep moving with my intention. And the boundaries and belonging workshop, like how it lives for me in my imagination at this point, is that it'll give people an opportunity to explore what boundaries even are. We have rigid boundaries all across the board, and we have cultural expectations, and a cultural expectation can be synonymous with a boundary, but that doesn't necessarily mean that boundary does or doesn't work for you. It's just what there is, it's just like what people expect. One of my teachers tells this story about how he was watching an American and a Brazilian speak. They were talking to one another, and the Brazilian, his boundary was like, he wanted to be close. That's what had him feel comfortable. And the American, was like, needed much more space in his bubble, And so they were talking, and the Brazilian kept moving closer, the American kept moving away, the Brazilian kept moving closer, American kept moving away, and it was funny. And then eventually, they both ended up falling over this rail. And it's like, what is the boundary? And how do you perceive boundaries? How do you identify your own boundaries? And does that boundary work for you, or does it not? And that can be really scary, but I think that is like, something that's essential when it comes to belonging, like feeling a sense of belonging. It's like, are you getting what you need? Are you getting what you desire? Are you getting what you Like, what would have you be fulfilled? Are you even aware of what is unfulfilled? Are you aware of, you know, can you identify what you need in relationship? And I'm not saying relationship like partnership. I'm saying relationship in terms of like anyone that you have any human interaction with. That's the context that I'm speaking about relationship from. And in a lot of context, in a lot of, and even bigger, that context is even bigger for me. Like relationship with objects, relationships with philosophy, relationships with ideas. There's a relationship. In my experience, the way that I see it, all things are relational. Our experiences are completely relational. We are immersed in relationship. This idea that there's an inner, there's an outer. You know, when we look within, you know, we can experience ourselves inwardly, but, you know, are we experiencing our, you know, beyond just our, you know, intestines, you know, beyond our stomach, beyond, like, there's this spaciousness that we can experience. And so, yeah, relationships. So, can you identify where you don't feel fulfilled? And I would assert that I would say that I would say all human beings, we are wired for connection. It is our happiest, most highest functioning state. Of course, there's, you know, the experience of extroverts, introverts, syntroverts, all that. You know, and you need like a healthy balance, whatever is unique to you. But either way, like without connection, we don't exist. If you consider that, like, we don't come out of the womb walking, you know, like we are the most helpless animals on the planet, like mammalian speaking, when it comes to being young. Like, it's crazy. We utterly, you know, there's like a Dalai Lama saying that in the beginning of our lives, we utterly depend on other people. And at the end of our lives, we utterly depend on other people. So why is it that, like the kindness of others, so why is it in the middle that we disregard this? And there's a allegory, I don't know exactly what it is, but there's this saying that I say, which is, if you think you're independent and you don't depend on other people, look around. Like, literally take a real assessment of what goes on in your life and how much of that you made outside of the experience of currency, which is also dependent on other people. Like, how you didn't make your car, you didn't make your, maybe you built your house, but you built your house with material that other people gathered, more than likely. Now, there are some anomalies out there. There are some people that are trying relentlessly to be self-reliant, and I would assume that these people are going to be very dissatisfied with their lives. You can't escape. You can't escape. You can't escape what is occurring in the world, as far as I see it. You know, we are in it together. And so it's like, one, we are so inefficient on our own. We function tenfold like more efficient in collaboration. Now, how do we leverage and capitalize on collaboration as the norm, one, but as the norm where it has behind it the intention that everyone be fulfilled? Now you might think like, we're human beings, not everyone agrees on everything, surely we can't be fulfilled. Well, that's fair. And especially in the culture that we live in, where we don't want to give up our own, you know, like we've gotten, it's very comfortable. It's very easy in our culture to not have to rely on people directly. We rely on people indirectly. We rely on people that hate their jobs. We rely on people, you know, that are just doing these things. But what I'm saying, like the game that I'm up to and what I want to play, the level that I want to play at, is that becomes irrelevant. Like we could literally build systems where people are, like when we start valuing our own fulfillment, and when we start valuing the fulfillment of others, we'll create systems. It's what we've always done. We've just created systems that will benefit us and contribute to our well-being. The materialism and the scale that it's currently functioning at is completely overindulgent, but different people have different tastes, different people have different needs, different people, you know, whatever. And, you know, you have to manage all that stuff. Like that was the biggest thing that I realized, like when I was like, nope, can't do this anymore, can't live this life. It's because what it was costing me to maintain all of the crap that I had just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth the cost. It was costing me my dignity. It was costing me my happiness. It was costing me, you know, feeling like a respectable human being. It's not worth it to me, and I don't think it's worth it to anyone. They just don't know that there's another way. And I'm here to say, like, as living proof, there is another way. You don't have to sacrifice yourself to take care of a bunch of stuff. You know, my truck, my apartment, my this, my that. It's like when I realized, like, I was afraid to leave this job. I was working as a heavy truck mechanic, and my boss had just got done yelling at me for something really petty. And I remember I was just sitting there and I was like, man, you know, I want to leave. Like, I just want to leave. I don't deserve this. You know, no one deserves this. No one deserves to be treated like that. And I'm not even saying that it was like not a good experience for me. It was one of the most important experiences of my life. But I was sitting in the cab of this truck and I was just like, you know what? Like, it dawned on me. It was like, I am creating this. The fear that I have about, like, all this stuff that I have to pay for, like, I'm bound to this job. I'm obligated to this job because I have to pay for this and I have to pay for that. And it was like, you know what? None of that means anything to me. And when I saw, like, when I saw what it meant to me, it was this egoic thing, you know. It was like, oh, I don't want to get rid of my truck. Oh, I don't want to get rid of, you know. It was like, it was all in the realm of, you know, looking good, you know, like looking good was important. And I mean that beyond, I mean that in like status and, you know, all that stuff. And so I just left, and I left because I was like, you know what, no matter where I go or what I do or where I end up, it's going to be better than this. And it's going to be better than this because I deserve better than this. And if I don't start treating myself better, how can I expect anyone else to do the same? And so I left. And I haven't looked back. So this one ran a little long. But my question for you is, where is looking good causing you suffering? And what are you managing? Like, what are you saying that you need that is causing you, that's costing you your dignity, your own self-respect, your own decency as a human being? And is it worth it? And the moment that I moved towards taking care of myself, my life started taking care of me too. And that's a conviction that I have, is that my life has my back. Do I know that to be true? Only through experience. I don't have any empirical evidence that I could sit on the table in front of you and say, here. Because there's plenty of evidence, you know, to the contrary. But it's a state of being, and it's a state of mind that I maintain as much as I can. I'm certainly not infallible. Because it feels good. It feels better to believe that life has my back than life is out to get me. And it's not naive. Doesn't mean that I don't pay attention. You know, it just means that if I continue to move in this way, it will be validated. Look up confirmation bias. It's an interesting field of experimentation. Anyways, all right, I gotta go. Thanks for listening. The extra time made up for last night's being a little bit shorter. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.